So I'm currently working on the Trans Am here. This is the big one, and I just kind of wanted to do updates of the progress just because it's a really cool kit, just because of its size mainly. I mean, we're used to building this is a 1/25th scale model, and it's just dwarfed by this 1/8 scale. So pretty much I have the chassis done. Chassis and engine are mainly done. So let me start with the engine. This is now the kit is supposed to have the Oldsmobile 403 because it's an automatic transmission and the pedals and the shifter included are automatic, but the engine that they include is the Pontiac 400, because you can tell because of the fuel pump on the Oldsmobiles on that side, and you can see it right down in there because this is the Pontiac. So I just decided to do it as if it was the Pontiac 400, just somehow if an automatic car got one. And I painted it Tester's light blue, which is a pretty close color to the corporate blue that GM was using at the time. And I left the valve covers chrome just because I wanted some kind of chrome under the hood. But everything else that was chrome I stripped and painted, silver or aluminum, like that fan clutch was chrome and I painted that the right color. Same with that alternator. I have the little decals on the belts, power steering pump, and the fuel pump as well down in there. It's a little bit hard to see. It says AC on it. Painted that separate. The compressor, I put the decal on the wrong spot, so I found a decal online that matches the right one. So I'm actually going to take that one off and put the right one on top where it's supposed to be. But I haven't printed it out yet, so I just left that one on in the meantime. And I painted the little bolts on the water pump and around the engine and on the intake, because I've seen a lot of people do that, so I decided to do it too. Got the manifolds looking good. The carburetor, you won't be able to see it really with the breather and the shaker on there, but I decided to paint it up anyways. And the distributor, did that. The valve covers I actually had on the wrong way. This one was on that side and vice versa, so I had to pull them off and switch them. And around on this side I have painted the oil filter separate and put that decal on, looking good. And the transmission I brush painted and it's okay. Had some issues with the paint, but I got that done. And now the rest of the chassis is flat black. It's the Home Depot HDX flat black, the one that's $298. And it works really good for like bigger things like this, where you can use a lot more paint and you don't necessarily want to use your expensive paint, but it comes out pretty good. And this is the top side that won't be showing. Now let's take a look at the wheels. I painted the whole wheel gold, and then I touched up the spokes the right color. I still have to put the decals on the center, but I didn't want to do that yet until I was done working with the wheels, because I didn't want to accidentally mess up the decal. Flip it over now. There we go. So the undercarriage, that same flat black, except for some of the suspension components and the drivetrain and the rear axle. I painted a gloss black to kind of have a contrast, and I really like it. See the back, those rotors I did, and I painted up the calipers a mix of gold and silver separate. See the bottom of the engine, looking good. There was a nasty seam and I tried to get it off. It looks okay up front, but you can still see it, but it is what it is. Starter's on there, painted up, decaled up. And the exhaust, I went for, you know, if it was a new shiny exhaust, as if it was a show car, although it's crossover pipe, but get the decals on the exhaust. The shocks have their own decals as well. It's kind of hard to show at this point. I should have showed it before, but they have their own decals. Painted them yellow. And I detailed it up like it in the instructions, like it has. The exhaust tips will go on at the end. I'm probably going to paint the straps on that gas tank a different shade of black or a gray. I have to look it up just to highlight those in some way. But I don't think I'm going to try and do the brake lines. They're just tiny and I'm not at that stage right now. Looking good. Underneath, and I have it all on this piece of PVC board just so I can move it around easier, and it fits perfectly on it. So everything's pretty much done so far. I still need to put the decals, and I'm planning on trying the white lettering for the tires. Still have to hunt down the right paint to use for that. And then in the box you can see the rest of the parts. Well, actually, the interior tub is the next stage, but I'm not going to do a video on that until it's done. See, the decals are in here. And just all the rest of the parts that still need to be done. Haven't touched any of these. Just doing this one stage at a time because it's just so big. But that's the first update on the big Pontiac Trans Am.